Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Okay, you guys, I hope that you appreciate how much I went through to get you this article. So I'm not going to be able to show the whole article on the screen. I did pay for a subscription, but it's just acting real weird. So I'm going to read it again. Prosecutors allege pervasive child sexual abuse in ex-Kansas City, Kansas cult by Luke Nosika, September 14th, 2023. A deserted building along North 13th Street in Kansas City, Kansas, which was once listed as the principal place of business of the United Nation of Islam, can be seen in this Google Street View image. Do you guys know, is that the same cult aligning themselves with Scientology? Because if so, birds of a feather, right? Just wait until you hear the rest of this. Numerous girls were sexually abused by members of a quasi-religious group, once headquartered in Kansas City, Kansas, who alleged leaders stand accused of child labor trafficking, prosecutors say. Federal prosecutors alleged systemic and pervasive sexual and physical abuse of children within the group previously known as the United Nation of Islam, which a federal judge in Kansas labeled a cult. Of the more than 15 examples of sexual abuse detailed by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Kansas, one is attributed to one of the defendants in the child labor case, Daniel Aubrey Jenkins, who allegedly engaged in sexual relationships. Let's just correct the record right now, as my dad used to say. It is impossible to engage in anything with a child. That's called taking against someone's will, and what that is rape. Look it up. R-A-P-E, rape. With underage girls, including one of the Justice Department's witnesses. Could this be what's yet to come? Scientology? You guys, listen to this. Prosecutors said Jenkins and the girl were married. Arrangements. What have I been screaming about? That were allegedly forced by the cult's leader and were not legal. When she was 15, she gave birth to a child at 16, prosecutors wrote. Jenkins' lawyer did not return a call or email seeking comment. See what they do when they get caught? Scientology should be getting ready. The star could not reach Jenkins, who has not yet been charged with sex abuse in the federal case. 8 of the sect's alleged leaders, like prestigious executives, were indicted in 2021 on accusations that they persuaded parents. Sound familiar, you guys? Across the U.S. to send their kids to an unlicensed school. I just would wonder, what would the difference be between a Nation of Islam school and a Scientology school? What makes them licensed versus unlicensed? Inquiring minds do want to know. They ran in KCK, but instead of education, they forced children as young as 8 to work 16-hour days at their businesses. Prosecutors say, like taking L. Ron Hubbard indoctrination, or how about construction work? Laying bricks, scrubbing toilets, being all the adult Scientologist maids and cooks. Huh. The indictment alleged children were physically beaten. Just look up Wally Hanks. But made no mention of sexual abuse. Oh, really? Huh. A lot of that going around, isn't there? But in responding to pretrial motions, prosecutors recently disclosed sexual abuse accusations against other members of the group. That included at least 6 examples of girls being married off to adult men. Where have we seen that before? Scientology. Apparently, they like to go, I think maybe Las Vegas. Wonder if they're holding the girls' passports at the same time. You know, it also would allow a minor child who had come from another country to get their citizenship. Sounds like trafficking, doesn't it? But what do I know? According to this article, that's what trafficking means. The United Nation of Islam, or UNOI, was founded by a truck driver. That should be a tip-off. Royal Jenkins, after he left Louis Farrakhan's Nation of Islam. Okay, you guys, sorry. I'm getting them mixed up. So, scratch what I've said. Eventually amassing hundreds of followers, Jenkins moved his group's headquarters in the late 1990s to Kansas City, Kansas, which he called heaven. Cult a lot? The group ran businesses along Kendaro Boulevard with names like Your Diner and Your Service Station. Yeah, they're big also, too. I believe this cult is very big on having the children do all the kitchen work. That's a thing. Jenkins claimed he was abducted. Oh, where we've heard this kind of story before. In 1978 by angels who showed him how to rule on earth. Ooh. Representing himself as Allah or God, Jenkins also married and sexually abused multiple underage girls. Prosecutors alleged in court records in May. One of Jenkins' many wives once told an underage girl that it was her duty to have sex with Jenkins. Prosecutors said, it's also rape. Let's just clear it up. Don't want any cloudy definitions. Wish I could figure out why my light keeps turning off here. I think I got to change the timer. Referred to in court documents as an unindicted co-conspirator. Jenkins died of C-19 complications in 2021, weeks before he would have been indicted. Reminds me of someone else, doesn't it? A weeks-long trial is set to begin March 4th for 7 defendants who have pleaded not guilty. Oh, I didn't do it. I didn't rape the young girls. I didn't rape them. They wanted it. An 8th, Atenia Kinnard, pleaded guilty last month to conspiracy to commit forced labor and faces up to 5 years in prison. In court filings, 2 of the defendants argued that Royal Jenkins and others were more culpable than they were, while others contended the indictment should have been tossed because of statute of limitations. Oh, they just love their little statute of limitations, don't they? They just love it, those little pedos do. Had expired. A lawyer for another said he vigorously denies the forced labor allegations. UNOI was dismantled in 2012 or 2013, but turned into 2 organizations known as the Value Creators and the Promise Keepers. You see what they do to avoid accountability? Whether those groups operate today remains unclear. Oh, does it now? Does it now? Children of God sound familiar to you guys? But the sect reportedly opened a restaurant. Oh, really? You know, child labor. The Royal Touch In 2018, across from the federal courthouse in KCK, a sign on its door last month said it closed in July, but would open it at a new location. You guys have the children doing all the work too? Prosecutors' recent filings also reveal that suspicions about the group were reported to authorities. In 2010, for example, a woman told police, though it's unclear where or which agency, that the group moved her children from Kansas to New Jersey and Georgia without her permission. Oh, where have we heard that before? The FBI briefly looked into a report in 2008 about Jenkins and potential fraud-related activity regarding welfare proceeds. Prosecutors said, but a case was not pursued. It's a paper trail, you guys. Childhoods ripped from survivors. Prosecutors allege the United Nation of Islam controlled all aspects of the children's lives, which included restricting their meals and refusing them medical attention if they were injured. Kids were sent to work at businesses across the U.S., including in Newark and Cincinnati. And their parents could go months without knowing where they were. Prosecutor said, today, some UNOI survivors are advocates in the anti-trafficking movement, such as Kendra Ross, who in 2018 won a nearly $8 million judgment against the sect in federal court in KCK. Why are they allowed to win? And all the Scientologist kids can't get their day. Their public comments also provide insight into what kind of testimony might be given at trial. Ross, who could not be reached by the Star, is now a consultant at the Washington, D.C. based Human Trafficking Legal Center, whose website says she plans to become a lawyer. Among other things, she has briefed D.C.'s Attorney General on labor trafficking. It says, speaking in 2018 on Megyn Kelly Today, Ross said there was no age limit for when girls could be forced into marriages, including one girl she heard of who was 13. Imagine that. And they don't even call them adults in small bodies in Islam, this cult. The cult arranged a marriage between a man who practiced polygamy and Ross when she was 20, according to her lawsuit, which centered on the 40,000 hours of labor she said she was forced to do across the U.S. I will have to manage this lifetime of trauma, Ross told Megyn Kelly, and it's not fair. In court, Ross' lawyer said Ross, like many men, women, and children, was treated like an unpaid servant, a slave. After Ross won her lawsuit, a judge in Kansas ordered that Jenkins be arrested for failing to appear in court, but he went into hiding. The FBI was never able to interview him. Kind of like they never could seem to get a hold of LRH, right? Must be a shortage of staff. Another survivor, Elijah Muhammad, shared his story in a 2020 TEDx talk in Dayton, Ohio. It was in 2002 he said that a UNOI official called his parents, who were members of the group, and told them it was time for their sons to begin their pilgrimage to manhood and move to Wyandotte County. The next evening, Muhammad and his brother were taken 600 miles in the back of an 18-wheeler, as if they were packages being sent out for delivery, he said. Once in KCK, they were packed like sardines with dozens of boys and men in an apartment. Like Scientology. Muhammad, who the star also could not reach, described acts of violence, including when he was struck with a phone book for once being late to work at a UNOI restaurant, sending him to the ground bloody. Kids had their bones broken and faces swollen in beatings, he said. At the TEDx Talk event, Muhammad also recalled a friend of his being attacked by 4 men who kicked him down a flight of stairs. Muhammad was 12 at the time. To add insult to injury, one of the guys literally poured salt on his wounds, he said. Like other survivors, Muhammad said his childhood was ripped from him. He also noted that when a friend of his died of an illness, Royal Jenkins claimed she killed herself by becoming ill. In filings this year, prosecutors included the death among dozens of examples of physical abuse within the group. Why aren't Scientology deaths important? The 14-year-old girl, whose name was Shaquanta Williams, died of cancer after Jenkins refused to allow her to go to a hospital. Just like Scientology. An obituary published in the Star said Williams of Wichita died April 19, 2009, at Children's Mercy Hospital. Imagine what the doctors felt when they saw this child come in like that. Speaking to his followers that day, Jenkins claimed the girl willed herself into extreme illness because she missed her father, according to a recording of his speech. Shaquanta begged to go to the hospital, Muhammad said in a 2018 interview with the A&E series, Cult and Extreme Belief, which did an episode on UNOL, and they did not take her. Prosecutors in recent court records pointed to other times when injured children were refused medical attention. Sounds familiar. That included when a youth member was allegedly punched in the face, giving him a permanent scar and vomited blood for days. That's a head injury, I think. Just my guess. All the while, the group received glowing press coverage and recognition from officials, like prestigious executives, for bringing business to Condado Boulevard. You think they didn't know? Come on, you guys. Wakey. Wasn't it Reese Cabell was talking about the jesters in Kansas City? I mean, I don't know if it's related, just saying. That members were not paid for work was not a secret. Just like the LAPD know that the children are being worked 16 to 18-hour days. One teenage boy told the Star in 1999 he worked since he was 10, but had never been paid. See, they are all benefiting from it. So that was Luke Nozica, and I will leave a link in the description box. You would have to subscribe, I think. But anyways, like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night, wherever you are. Peace.